إبراهيم على إبراهيم في العالمين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Sorry, it's been a minute since I've done an in-person event. I used to come to North Bergen a lot before, but then had another baby and a lot of stuff has happened since then. So thank you for having me. Thank you. He's a year and a half now, but still it feels like yesterday. So today, inshallah, I was invited to talk to you. No, yes. His name is Yusuf. He's really cute. My daughter Dina's here. She's a little older. So today's topic is, does anyone know what everyone's going to be kind of celebrating after Salat al-Isha today? Yes. Yes, Mawlid al-Nabawi, right? So Mawlid al-Nabawi, did you say you forgot his name? That's the Prophet Muhammad. Okay, I thought you said that. Okay, the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, right? So it's the Mawlid al-Nabawi. And so today I'm talking about why should we take the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam as a role model, and more specifically, why as Muslims growing up in the US, we should be proud of the fact that we're Muslim, right? So I want to start off by asking a question. Do you think that sometimes it's hard growing up as a Muslim in the US? Yes. Okay, can you tell me why? Yeah. And sometimes, because, sometimes it's tempting to go with what they're doing, right? Yeah. They what? Oh, they call it me comments. Yes, yes. They talk about bombs too, yeah. Okay. Racism, yeah, yes. Yeah, so that's also a really important one. So saying that there's a lot of different things that are bad around you, right? And then you have to kind of stay within this sphere of what is good. Yeah, what else? Yeah, so for hijabis, we're a lot more visibly Muslim, right? So thank you so much. So it's a lot harder, right? So if I were to summarize all of these different comments, do you feel like being different is kind of a little bit of the same theme of everything we're talking about? So being different than the mainstream, being different from your friends, which is why sometimes people are mean. Yeah. Yes, my little friend. Oh, happy birthday. Next Tuesday is my birthday. Looks like we have similar birthdays. So that I think we can summarize it by what? By saying that being different, right? Being different and setting ourselves apart from everybody else is sometimes what makes it different, right? So let's think about it. And sometimes when you're walking in the mall or walking on the street or doing anything, don't you sometimes just want to go into somewhere like no one noticing you and coming out without any feelings of anyone noticing, right? You just want to do things and come out, no one noticing, not feeling any different, nothing, right? That's kind of like the desire that we want to have sometimes, not all the time, sometimes, right? But this feeling of being different, right? We have to remember why are we doing it? Why are we trying to be different? Why is it that in Islam we are different than other people? Yeah.
Because Islam has more rules and because that's the right way to go.
Okay, so rules and the right way to go, okay. So there are Spanish Muslims. I see what you're saying though. There are different people that are non-Muslim, right? Is that what you're saying? Like non-Muslims? Yeah, non-Muslims. Yeah, buddy, do you want to say something? Yeah. I was like, no. What? Muhammad? Assalamu alaikum, Muhammad. Okay, yes. Okay, yeah, racially we can look like that, but I'm saying, so why is it worth it, right? I'm not saying what makes us different. I'm saying why is it worth it to be different? I'm going to take something from the ladies' side. So, just 1 second. Okay, do you guys have something? So why is it worth it that as Muslims we're different from everyone else around us? Yes. So we know there's a reward in the end. That's a good one. Is that the same? Same answer. Okay, so I think I'm gonna summarize these, right, by saying that we are given through Islam, this like in its purest form, we're given principles and values that lead us to the best life in this dunya and in the akhirah, right? So we have in the Quran, right, a way of life. The Quran's like a manual for living life, right? So within the Quran, we have this manual, we have this description as to how we can live the best life that we can, and this life that will lead to, inshallah, the best life in the akhirah. So that's why we are different, right? Because we have the magic sauce, you know? You know when sometimes when you're watching different things and you're seeing stuff and you see some people like proud of whatever, you know, they're proud of being different. It's because they have something so special within them, right? So special that within them that they are not afraid of what other people say because they know within themselves that they have something that's special that people wish to have, right? And that's the relationship that we strive to have with Islam. That's the relationship we want to have with Islam. Knowing and fully believing inside of us that yes, sometimes it's hard. Yes, we are sometimes different. Yes, sometimes it does seem like there's a lot of rules that could constrain. But we have to remember that the reason why this is the reality and why we're fighting for this and why we are different is because we have something so special. We have something that will lead us to the best life in this dunya if followed correctly, and the best life in the akhirah, again, if followed correctly. So now I want to tie it back to the Prophet, alayhi salatu salam. Yes, so whenever we say alayhi salatu salam, what are you supposed to say? Salatu salam, right? And every time you say that, the Prophet alayhi salam sends his salam back to you. So he was always different, right? The Prophet alayhi salam from I want to say from birth was different, right? So let's take that for a minute. The Prophet alayhi salatu salam, was he born with both parents? No, he was only, his dad had died when his mom was pregnant with him, right? And that, yes, because, yeah. Okay, then afterwards, after he was born, how old was he when his mother passed away? 6, he was young, right? So let's already think about that. Let's take a minute and honestly think about how many of us know, right, a baby that was born without a parent being alive. How many of us know a baby that was born without a parent being alive? We don't, right? It exists, it happens, but it's a rarity. He's already different. Then not only is his dad passes away, but then on top of that, what happens? His mother also passes away at a young age. And how many of you know of kids that lose their parents at a young age? That number's a little bit more, right? But it's still like a rarity. It's not as many, right? So from birth, it was like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was setting the Prophet. I'm gonna take questions in a minute because we're gonna keep interacting, but I want to get my point across, okay? My little friend, okay? So what we want to do, how we want to think about it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set the Prophet up from the beginning to be, hey, listen, you're not the status quo. You are different, right? You are different. Then let's go into his teenage years. Teenagers. Who's a teenager here in the room? Okay, what's the number one way of describing a teenager? Rebellious, right? Crazy, wants to do their thing, stubborn, all that stuff, right? Or maybe not, maybe just stubborn. I think, yeah, not always. You're right. Sarcastic, always. I think all teenagers are sarcastic. Stubborn. I said, okay, maybe. Okay, I agree. But point is, what I'm saying is that the Prophet ﷺ was never characterized by any of those things. What was the Prophet ﷺ known as from a young age? And I'm going to look at the ladies' side because I want them to interact more. What was his nickname from a young age? As-Sadiq al-Amin, right? So he had gotten that nickname from a very young age. So then again, not only was he different in terms of his family, but he was also different in terms of his character. And I want you to think about that for a little bit, because let's remember during that time when Quraysh was happening, right? What was the common thing that was happening during the time of Quraysh? There was a lot of lying, there was a lot of cheating, there was no one being really forthright or honest, right? So the Prophet ﷺ stood out. How? By being a Sadiq al-Amin, by staying true to his values, by being true to who he was, right? So we continue. Then the Prophet ﷺ, before he became a prophet, where did he used to frequently visit and go for long periods of time? Yes. What is it? Yeah, Ghar Hira, right? The cave of Hira. The Prophet ﷺ would leave everybody, and would go to this cave and would stay there reflecting on life, right? He would say that there's so many different things that are happening, but I'm going to reflect on life. I'm going to think differently. I'm going to try to understand this life. So in every phase of the Prophet ﷺ's life, he was different. Even his marrying of Sayyidina Khadija, who was the best of women, even in his marrying of Sayyidina Khadija, he was different. Because how old was the Prophet ﷺ when he married Sayyidina Khadija? He was 25, right? He was 25 and Sayyidina Khadija was 40. But that's not what made it different. Well, that's one of the things that made it different. But she was also had been married twice before, right? So it was kind of like a young bachelor marrying someone that's older that had been married twice before. And why was he attracted to her in the first place? It was because of her character, right? So this is all in a way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is setting the playing field for Islam to come down to this person who was never afraid to be different. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ was never afraid to be different. In fact, he thrived on his difference, right? So with his relationship with Sayyidina Khadija, he wasn't just a salesman, right? He was the best salesman. That people then began to go from all over the world, all over Mecca, trying to know who he is. And then his reputation only grew, right? So he set himself apart by being different, and by what? By sticking to his values. So his reputation was, again, as Sadiq al-Amin, the honest, the most trustworthy, right? So he also, like I said, wanted to go to Ghar Hira, and he wanted to gain clarity. And then what happened? Then what happened when he was in Ghar Hira? One of the days that he was in Ghar Hira, what happened? Yes. Jibreel came down and told him to read, okay? Jibreel came down and told him to read. And what was his response? Ladies, yes. أنا ما بقارئ. I don't know how to read, right? So again, there's a difference. There's a status quo that's being put on the Prophet ﷺ saying, read, and he's responding saying, I don't know how to read, right? So once again, he is standing in his way of difference. Like, I want you all to think about this for a second. Imagine your principal came and told you to read. Would you respond and say, I don't know how to read? You'd be like you'll just pretend to read, right? But again, this is the Prophet ﷺ in all his greatness, that Jibreel, who, like, let's physically imagine this, like a huge creature comes down upon you, and your response is honesty. I don't know how to read. I don't know. And he repeated, read. I don't know how to read. Read. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the best of things to read, which is then when he then revealed Surah Al-Qalam and began the revelation of Islam, right? And then what happened after the Prophet ﷺ got the message of Islam? What happened? Yes. What happened? Seems like you're... Okay, what happened? Yes. Yeah, so he went down and he went back to Sayyidina Khadija. But in what state was he? Scared. He was terrified. He was so scared that he went saying, Zammiluni, Zammiluni. And I want you all to think about, when are the times, Zammiluni means hold me close and like cover me close. Like hold me close. Zammiluni, Zammiluni, Dathiruni, Dathiruni. Which means hold me close and cover me up. When do you feel like that? When you're looking for any kind of security, right? Any kind of security, anything that's meant to bring you back into this world, basically saying, like, I'm losing my mind. That is where the Prophet ﷺ was, where he was like, I don't know what just happened. I'm terrified. I'm scared. And then what did Sayyidina Khadija respond? Does anyone know how Sayyidina Khadija responded to that? So she told him basically, I don't know what just happened, right? But I believe you for whatever you're saying just happened. But that whatever you're saying cannot be bad, because bad will not happen to people who are good. And you in your essence are good. I'm paraphrasing. That's not exactly what she said, but it's the idea of what she said. And then she took Sayyidina Muhammad to her cousin Waraq ibn Nawfal, who then said, this was the message, you are the Prophet. And did the Prophet at that point begin to celebrate and say, woohoo, I'm the Prophet, yay, like follow me? What did he do? He was terrified. He was so scared. He was so scared. He was terrified even after it was confirmed that what was happening to him was he was not losing his mind. In fact, he was becoming the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because what? Now he has to stand apart and he has to stick to his values and be different at a higher level than he ever was. So even the Prophet ﷺ was scared to be different. But did that keep him from being different? No, it didn't. And what did the Prophet ﷺ do? Then he started preaching the message. He started preaching it in small groups, and then the groups became larger until they came and they proclaimed the message. And then when they proclaimed the message, what happened? Were people like, okay, cool, we can do this thing, let's do Islam? No, what did they do? They kept calling him names. They, even when he would pray at the Kaaba, they would say the guts and waist of camels on his back as he prayed. If we remember the story of when he went to the village that what is the village's name? The one, oh my God, what's the village's name? The village where he was, anyway, he went to a village, I can't remember the name right now off the top of my head. Ta'if, thank you. Okay, Ta'if. He went to the village of Ta'if, and what did they do when they went to the village of Ta'if? He went to go introduce the message, and what happened? They hit him with so many rocks that his knees were bleeding. And it was to the point where the Jibreel, the Malaika came down, and what did they say? They said, we are ready to take this mountain and collapse them on top of this village from how much they hurt you. That's how bad he was hurt. And what did the Prophet ﷺ respond? What did he respond? Yeah. He said, actually, and it's actually very profound what he said. He said, I don't want that to happen because maybe one of their descendants will be a Muslim. One of their descendants will be a Muslim. Okay, so this is what happens when you're different. This is what happens when you're different. And the Prophet at the time when he was beginning, right, he was getting, I said, camel guts on his back, could not pray, could not recite Quran, could not be anywhere, right? Why? Because they would be attacking him and killing the Sahaba and torturing them in the worst of ways. In the worst of ways. But what did he do? He kept on his message and he said, I am going to stand for this. But why? Why did he keep on this message? Yeah. He had faith, and it's because we're going back to the same thing. Those principles and values were in place. Those principles and values were in place, and he was what? He was the walking Quran, right? He was the walking Quran, but he was the walking Quran before the Quran was even revealed, right? So the Quran was added onto this, where you now have this human being who was the walking version of the Quran, who is in his complete version, like the most perfect being, right, that exists, because he stuck to his values and he was not afraid to be different. He was not afraid to be different. And this is what I want us all to think about. This is what I want us to think about when we're walking in the halls and people are saying not nice stuff, or when all our friends are going to go do something bad and we're like, should we go or should we not? Or when we're in the mall and we're like, oh, should we really wear the hijab outside today? When we're questioning, when we're looking in the mirror and like, should we wear the hijab or not? We want to channel this moment that the Prophet, despite everything, was proud that he was different because of the fact that he held on to something so special that he knew that if he truly embodied this and truly sent on this message, it would change the world. And it did. We're here how many years later? And we see the effect of Islam, right? We see that how many Muslims that we have. We're the fastest growing religion. That all happened because of this man who got the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and because he believed in these principles and acted on these principles. We're here 1,000+ years later, and we're still practicing, we're still discussing his principles, we're still discussing the reality of how we can live by this, right? And that's what we need to channel. That's what we need to think of. We don't need to be like any of these celebrities who once they die, people like remember them maybe once or twice and then khalas, right? All these different things you see on Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or all this, we're like, oh, we want to be like that, that's really cool. But the reality is, who's going to remember them? Are they really sticking to their principles or their values? Are they? No. Because trust me, yeah, okay, some are. You're right, some are. I'm not going to say everyone is. But when you're following something like social media or you're following the dunya is all you're going to get, right? But the Prophet ﷺ, and I'm going to end with this hadith, right? He said, in one of the times when he was challenged, his uncle, Abu Talib, who was the nearest and dearest to him, because remember what we said, the Prophet ﷺ, both his parents died. And who raised him? Abu Talib. So this is like the person nearest and dearest to him came, and the big people of Quraysh, like the big players in Quraysh came, and they were like, okay, we need to put an end to this. This Islam is not working for us. And why was it not working for them? Because they were living in a greedy society that was following the money, that was following taking advantage of people, that was oppressing the rights of the weaker people in society. And now the bigger people in society are like, no, we don't want any more of this. Islam brought up the weaker people in society and made them equal in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, a different way of thinking, right? And the big people of Quraysh, the big players in Quraysh were like, we don't want any of this. And they tried to squash it. So what did they do? They had a meeting and they're like, okay, that's it. Abu Talib, it's time. We're ending this. So go talk to Sayyidina Muhammad and find out what will it take for us to end this. He wants beautiful women, we'll give him beautiful women. He wants all the money in the world, we'll give him all the money in the world. Just find out what it will take. And what did he respond? Come on, buddy, we're talking about the Prophet, be serious. Okay, so when we think about this, I want you all to take a moment. Imagine you're in this place where someone's going to come tell you, hey, listen, I'm going to give you everything you want in this world. Just leave your Islam. And this person, who again was an orphan, the Prophet wasn't rich. It wasn't like rolling in the money. He literally at that time had very little family around him, was being hated by everyone in the world, and his response was, by God, if they put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left hand on the condition that I abandon this course of Islam until God has made me victorious or I perish therein, I would not abandon it. So he's basically saying that there's no way I'm leaving Islam. Go get me, do the impossible, get me the moon and get me the sun and put them in my hands, I'm not leaving Islam. Right? And that is the faith we need to have. That is the belief that we need to have. That in our hearts, this Islam that the Prophet ﷺ fought for, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought down as a mercy to our humanity, is this special diamond, this special, not even diamond, because it's not even, I can't even compare it to diamond. It's a special thing that we all possess. We were all blessed to have it, especially because I assume everyone here was born Muslim. You're blessed to have this reality. And so if the cost is to be different, I want us all to look in the mirror and be confident and say, so what? So what? I'm different and I'm proud, and I will continue to carry in the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And so with that, I would like to say, Subhanakallah hamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk, wal 'asr, innal insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus salihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. So does anyone have any questions or reflections? Does everyone get the point I was trying to say? Did you? Yes? Where's my buddy that his birthday is next Friday? He left. He had his hand raised the whole time, Habibi. What's his name? Atta, what's your question, Habibi? Yes, I'm sorry, No, it's okay, guys. Guys, it's okay for him to ask this question. You mean, why did the Prophet die? Yes, so first off, I want to say I'm very proud of you for listening. Thank you for listening, and thank you for asking a very good question. Why did the Prophet? We don't know, right? There's a lot of times we experience grief, right, in this world that we don't understand. But if we want to think about it, right, based on the talk I was giving you, I think that Allahu A'lam, but I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was preparing the Prophet from the beginning to not rely on anybody but himself from day one. You don't have a dad, you don't have a mom. The only way that you're going to be able to do this is yourself. And like, I actually like to say this, for example, my daughter, who's 4, she told me this the other day, where she said, "But Mama, your job as parents is to protect us," right? So she says, Mama and Baba are here to protect us. She's shy now. And she's right? Our parents' job is to protect us. But I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He challenged the Prophet ﷺ by not having this built-in protection system so that he was stronger and able to face any controversy or any difficulties that come his way from the beginning. And inshallah, he will be able to see his parents in Jannah. Inshallah. Does that answer your question, Atta? Yeah? Okay. Does anyone else have a question? Or like thoughts, feelings, concerns? Did that make sense to everybody? Are we proud that we're Muslim? Yes. And I always want you guys to be proud you're Muslim. It's okay to ask questions. There's no silly question. Always ask your questions, but you should always be proud you're Muslim because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the greatest gift, which is Islam. Yes, my class clown. What's up? It better be a serious question. Okay. Yeah, that's it. No, but it's a curiosity. You question that, but the God does not die because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a human, right? We can't actually, okay, the best way I can explain Allah is, does anyone watch any like shows or movies that understand multi-dimension? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above what we can even comprehend. So you can't imagine Allah because it's like this is how much we can comprehend and this is where Allah is. He's higher than that. So you can't imagine him. So I can't describe him to you, right? There's no way you can describe him because Allah created everything that we can potentially think of. So he's above that. That's all I can explain. Inshallah, what's your name? What's his name? Zayd? Zayd. Inshallah, one day you go to Jannah and you can see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yourself and you can ask him. Okay, girls, do you have any questions? Comments, concerns, feelings? Yeah, Habibti. Do you have a question? You can ask it. It's okay, you can ask. No? Okay. Anything else? Well, thank you all for being good listeners and being interactive with the conversation. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khair, sister. So I hope you benefit from this. We have at least 15 minutes, so you can go play 15 minutes downstairs, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.